Shalom, family. It's your friendly neighborhood teacher, Eliyah. I'm a healthy, wise, strong, protected, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Most High Creator, we come before you at this hour, and we ask you to pour out your grace and mercy upon us, forgiving us for all of our sins, known, unknown, and forgotten, and forgiving our ancestors for all of their sins, known, unknown, and forgotten. Most High Creator, your word says where two or more come in your name, your spirit will abide. Well, Most High, I ask you to abide with me and my watchers at this moment, Most High. Pour out your spirits of wisdom, knowledge, discernment, and understanding upon us, giving us eyes to see and ears to hear your word, to see the truth in between the lines, Most High. Give us understanding. Give our hearts and minds understanding of what we are about to read, Most High. Guide us down the narrow path, Most High. In Yahushua's mighty name we pray. Ashe, Ashe, and Ashe. All right, family, we read now to the sealed portion of the brother of Jared. All right, but before that, remember, I'm going to go ahead and read some Bible verses first that I asked the Most High to guide me to, not looking at the book, just open it up to wherever it opens up first, and that's the message. Now, once again, whatever I'm going to read, maybe it's for you listening right now, maybe it's for me, maybe it has something to do with what we're about to read, who knows, but we're going to go ahead and read it. So let's go ahead and jump in, family. We starting from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, verse 8. Be instructed, O Jerusalem, lest my soul depart from you, lest I make you desolate, a land not inhabited. Thus says Yahuwah Tetzvoth, they shall thoroughly glean the remnant of Yasharel as a vine. Turn back your hand as a grape gatherer into the baskets. Hold on. Turn back your hand as a grape gatherer. Turn back your hand as a grape gatherer into the baskets. To whom shall I speak and give warning, that they may hear? Behold, their ear is uncircumcised, and they cannot hearken. Behold, the word of Yahuwah is unto them a reproach. They have no delight in it. Therefore I am full of the fury of Yahuwah. I am weary with beholding end. I will pour it out upon the children abroad, and upon the assembly of young men together. For even the man with the woman shall be taken, the aged with him that is full of days. And their houses shall be turned unto others, with their fields and women together. For I will stretch out my hand upon the inhabitants of the land, says Yahuwah. For from the least of them even unto the greatest of them everyone is given to covetousness. And from the prophet even unto the priest everyone deals falsely. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people, slightly saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. Therefore they shall fall among them that fall. At the time that I visit them, they shall be cast down, says Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the ancient paths. Where is the good way? And walk wherein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Also I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the shofar. But they said, we will not hearken. Therefore hear ye nations, and knoweth, O assembly, what is among them. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words, nor to my Torah, but rejected it. To what purpose comes there to me incense from Shiva, and the sweet cane from a far country? Your burnt offerings are not acceptable, nor your sacrifices sweet unto me. Therefore thus says Yahuwah, behold, I will lay stumbling blocks before this people, and the fathers and the sons together shall fall upon them. The neighbor and his friend shall perish. Thus says Yahuwah, behold, a people comes from the north country, and a great nation shall be raised from the sides of the earth. They shall lay hold on bow and spear. They are cruel and have no mercy. Their voice roars like the sea, and they ride upon horses, set in array as men for war, against you, O daughter of Zion. We have heard of the fame thereof. Our hands wax feeble, anguish has taken hold of us in pain, as of a woman in travail. Go not forth into the field, nor walk by the way, for the sword of the enemy and fear is on every side. O daughter of my people, gird you with sackcloth, and wallow yourself in ashes. Make you mourning as for your Yechid, most bitter lamentations, for the spoiler shall suddenly come upon us. I have set you for a tower and a fortress among my people, that you may know of the truth, so that you may know and triumph their way. They are all grievous revolters, walking with slanders. They are brass and iron, they are all corrupters. The bellows are burned, the lead is consumed of the fire. The founder melts in vain, for the wicked are not plucked away. Reprobate silver shall men call them, because Yahuwah has rejected them. The word that came to Yermayahu from Yahuwah, saying, stand in the gate of Yahuwah's house, and proclaim there this word, and say, hear the word of Yahuwah, all ye of Yahudah, that enter in at these gates to worship Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah Tetzvath, the Elohai of Yasharel. Amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. Trust ye not in lying words, saying the temple of Yahuwah, the temple of Yahuwah, the temple of Yahuwah are these. For if ye truly amendeth your ways and your doings, if ye truly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if ye oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other Elohim in your heart, then will I cause you to dwell in this place, in the land that I gave to your fathers forever and ever. Behold, ye trust in lying words, they cannot profit. Will ye steal, kill, and break wedlock, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other Elohim, whom ye know not, and come and stand before me in this house which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to doeth all these abominations? Is this house which is called by my name become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, says Yahuwah. But go ye now unto my place which was in Shiloh, where I have set my name at the first, and seeth what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Yasharel. And now, because ye have done all these works, says Yahuwah, and I spoke unto you, rising up early and speaking, ye heard not. And I called you, but ye answered not. Therefore will I do unto this house, which I called by my name, wherein ye trust, and unto the place which I gave to you, and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh. And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast of all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. Therefore pray not for this people, neither lift up cry nor prayer for them, neither make intercession to me, for I will not hear you. See you not what they do in the cities of Yehudah, and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindleth the fire, and the women knead their dough to make sacrificial wafers to the Queen of heaven, and to pour out drink offering unto other Elohim, that they may provoke me to anger. Do they provoke me to anger, says Yahuwah? Do they not provoke themselves to the confusion of their own faces? Therefore thus says Adonai Yahuwah, behold, my anger and my fury shall be poured out upon this place, upon man and upon beast, and upon the trees of the field, and upon the fruit of the ground, and it shall burn, and shall not be quenched. Thus says Yahuwah Tetzvath, the Elohai of Yasharel, put your burnt offerings unto your sacrifices, and eat flesh. For I spoketh unto your fathers, nor commanded them in the day that I brought them out of the land of Misraim concerning burnt offerings or sacrifices. But if this thing commanded I them, saying, Obey my voice, and I will be your Elohim, and ye shall be my people. And walk ye in all the ways that I commanded you, that it may be well unto you. But they hearkened not, nor inclined their ear, but walked in their counsel, and in the imagination of their evil heart, and went backward and not forward, since the day that your fathers came forth out of the land of Misraim, until this day I have even set unto you all my servants, the prophets, daily rising up, early and sending them. Yet they hearkened not unto me, nor inclineth their ear, but hardened their neck. They did worse than their fathers. Therefore you shall speak of all these words unto them, but they will not hearken to you. You shall also call unto them, but they will not answer you. But you shall say unto them, This is a nation that obeys not the voice of Yahuwah Elohim, nor receives correction. Truth is perished and is cut off from their mouth. Cut off your hair, O Jerusalem, and cast it away, and take up a lamentation on high places. For Yahuwah has rejected and forsakeneth the generation of his wrath. For the children of Yehudah have done evil in my sight, says Yahuwah. They have set their abominations in the house which is called by my name, to pollute it. And they have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burneth their sons and their daughters in the fire, which I command them not, neither came it into my heart. Wow, family, look. All I can say from what I just read, just real quick, from what I just read, that is, man, like I said, when I open this book, before I do these readings now, what it was on my spirit to do is I get the Bible out and I don't look, and I ask the Most High to guide me to a word that you want me to speak before I read. And then I just open it. And to whoever opens, that's why I read. And family, this is speaking of very much so where we are right now. This new voting come up. Remember, family, voting is a spiritual contract. It's talking about what a marriage. Everybody cheating on each other now. Ain't nobody honoring marriage no more. Leaving your kids and your wife and your children, or leaving your husband and your children. The sanctity of marriage has been just destroyed. And then what did it say, right? What did it say? It also said, and they have built the high places of Topheth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to burneth their sons and their daughters in the fire. Family, my sisters, I keep telling y'all, look, this Planned Parenthood, this Democrat, this stuff they doing to get y'all to destroy, to delete your babies, understand that that ain't no different than what happened in the land of Canaan with our ancestors and the Philistines and Ruth and her people. And remember, they were deleting their babies, sacrificing them. This is the same thing you're doing when you sleeping out of wedlock, family. And then you go to these Planned Parenthood places and you have them take that baby out of you. Understand, that is a sacrifice. You're destroying the children, especially for my Israelite sisters. You're destroying the children of the Most High. And the Most High is saying right here, the Most High tired of it. Remember, family, the 2/3, a lot of our people ain't going to make it because they stiff-necked and hard-hearted at this point. Just like in the days of Noah is where we at. We can sit just like Noah, minister for 100 years, every day, change your way. Come back to the Most High, follow the laws. Come back to the Most High with a broken heart, contrite spirit. They don't want to listen. All they do is, like I said, they go to church on Sunday, but they in the club Friday and Saturday. Sleeping around with every T, D, and Harry. And then go to church on Sunday, ask forgiveness. And even then, they really not asking forgiveness. They just sitting there. They not even listening. They just can't wait to get out. Really, they just sitting there to sit there. They only go there to hear a few songs and clap their hands and pretend like they true believers. But they not. They faking. And then we got that war going on in Ukraine right now. And North Korea just jumped in it too. They got troops over there. Iran and Israel just is popping off now. I just heard today that Iran attacked American bases in Libya, I think. No, not Libya, but Syria, I believe. So family, that army coming from the north, look, America is reprobate at this point, family. There is no God in the majority of these people. There's no creator in the majority of these people. They don't care. And even those who say they care, they don't care. And because of our sin, this country, family, is done. Watch. What's that movie that Obama and his wife just made? Not too long ago, early in this year. Remember the Netflix movie? Remember all the power went out? What's it called? I forget what it's called, but y'all know Obama and his wife were and I talked about it in my video. I forget what it's called, but Obama and his wife were directors on this new disaster movie, End of the World disaster movie that came out on Netflix like in June, remember? I forget what it's called, but it's about how all the power went out in the country, and by the end of the movie you find out there's a war going on. Family, that's coming. A lot is coming. There's too much sin. Our ancestors' blood is crying from the graves for revenge. And this is what's coming. Prepare yourselves. I don't care how nice it look outside or people doing this and that. Family, it's coming. Remember, it's gonna come on. It's gonna come like a thief in the night. Just when you least suspect it. Remember what the word said, that before the flood, people were marrying and giving their children away in marriage, drinking wine, partying, like nothing was going wrong, like nothing was wrong, all up until the flood. And that's the same thing right now. We all gonna live all the way up to the end like ain't nothing going on. And that's what this just told me right now, family. Ain't nobody gonna be spared, young, old, baby, because we all, look, with the exception of the babies though, we all have fallen short. We've all sinned. So stay prayed up, family. Every day ask forgiveness. Most High, forgive me for my sins. Continue to pray, family. Continue to fast. Continue to prepare yourselves for what is to come. Because it's nigh, family. It's nigh. It is. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this reading. But I just want to throw that forward. Boy, hey, the Most High really brought me to the word, huh? Most definitely. All right, family, look. Let's go ahead and jump into this reading. Give me a second. So, yeah, we reading from the book of Jared. Well, hey, that was a good message, though. Thank you, Most High, for the warning, reminding us that time is here, family. It's that 12th hour. The 12th hour is nigh. Okay, let's go. The words of Goker Harem III. An account of the vision of Aki, as seen by Goker Harem III concerning the first great war in heaven. Now, behold, listen and learn a great mystery of life. Yea, learn how to determine a godly lifestyle and a clean heart. Those of you who are in the midst of a wicked world, awake, and behold the knowledge of God in the last days, and be empowered over sin, and be endowed unto righteousness and oneness with God in your daily walk. Search out these things, for they have been hidden from you, but now they come before your eyes. And those who desire to serve God and have groped to find a way have come upon a blessing from the hand of God. And it came to pass that I sat before the Urim, and I looked, and I saw sun-bathed gentle hillside. And I saw a sun-bathed gentle hillside. And as I looked about to see, I realized I was seeing where Adam and Eve dwelt in Eden. And Eve was sitting on a rock with her feet in clear water. And it came to pass that a falling star streaked across the heavens and lit up the evening as bright as day. And the meteorite landed with a crash, and the smoke of burning near the place where Eve was. And Eve was frightened, and with a shriek she fled from before it. And it came to pass that I looked, and I beheld the iridescent rock in the middle of the hillside. Now as I beheld a strange thing. Oh, my bad. And I beheld the iridescent rock in the middle of the hillside, with its skid mark and small crater from its landing. Now as I beheld a strange thing happen, I began to hear the thoughts and feel the feelings of the things in this scene through the eyes of God. And their private feelings and speech one with the other were made known to me. And I was amazed. For here in the midst of the presence of the Holy Great One in Elda were rocks and clumps of grass and flowers and bushes scattered about, with the dark multicolored iridescent rock in the middle, and they all knew each other. But the meteorite was a stranger, and the wind, and the hill, and the stream conversed among themselves. But the rock lay silently dazed at the sudden change that had come upon him. And he intruded upon them, and they felt the violence of his arrival. And all that were there were quiet in his presence, and they held their peace. And it came to pass that as a new days dawned, all could behold his many colors as they shone forth from him, and changed with the movement of the light of God. And after a while the rock stranger spoke to them all. And I could feel that in his heart he felt unsure of himself, and he felt a little afraid and insecure by his travels suddenly coming to an end, as he burst forth into a world that was unknown to him. And I beheld, as he felt inferior, and he spoke with a bluffing tone, and he said, I am better than all of you. I am a traveler, and I have wandered the far reaches of creation. And my name is Simihaza, which means my name has seen. For I have seen the wonders that lie beyond, but who are you? You have always just lain here upon this hillside. My mother is a comet, and she travels whithersoever she chooses, and has no fixed course, like the lowly sun and stars and heavenly bodies. I am beautiful and colored with irradiance, but you are just plain old brown and gray rocks. And your mother is an old broken down mountain. And it came to pass that all those that were before him were embarrassed at his haughtiness, and they were ashamed before the presence of the Holy Great One. And at the first had they had legs, they would have fled from before him, as did Eve. But as time passed, some of the younger rocks began to desire to hear of the wonders of his travels, and they were attracted to his talk, and desired to be associated with his appearance. And it came to pass that the wind began to bear the message, and to send the news abroad, that in the midst of Eden, in the presence of God, there was one who would compare and place the value and worth of one above another. And all creation in Eden, for the very first time, was introduced to the sin of superiority, and the judgment of value being thrust upon living souls. And thus were the seeds of racism, war, and death beginning to be sown. And all who did not pay him heed to listen and partake of his haughtiness were pure and holy. And they stood firm with the vision of their created purpose. But some rocks began to relent, and they began to desire to listen to this rock stranger and his rebellion against God. And the thing greatly troubled all of Eden, for it was known to them that every hill and tree and stream and rock were created by the loving hand of God, to be a marvelous work and a wonder in his sight. And he did not divide his love, insomuch that he would love one above another. But Simihaza rebelled, and would that he could pretend to hide the oneness of God. Now understand that what passed between all these before me were not words that are familiar with fallen man in his temporal state, but they spoke to one another by the power of the feelings of their heart that resulted in them receiving life in the day of their creation. And it came to pass that in the time some of the rocks believed Semihaza and were influenced by him, and began to feel ashamed of their mothers, and began to view their lives as dull and of no value, compared to this strange, multicolored traveler. And those who were drawn to him began to ask him to rehearse the wonders of his travels to them. And they began to hold him up as the most important rock upon the hillside, or even in all the regions round about. And it came to pass that those whom he confided and listened to the grand adventures he told, and began to feel superior to all those around them that chose not to pay him heed. And in the course of those days, they became dissatisfied with the vision of their created purpose. Forgive me real quick, family. And Semihaza said to a rock beside him, "How are you called, little one?" And he answered, "My name is Artagoth, which means the earth is power. For all things are created by the power of the love of God in the earth." And Semihaza replied, "Oh no, that will never do. You are copper, and you were created to rule over all the host of men, and you can be great in the sight of all the earth. For you shall bring them pleasure and power in abundance, and they will greatly desire you and worship you. And in this thing the love of God is done away." And in this manner did Semihaza give all who would listen lying visions, and he prospered and practiced in the midst of the holy Eden and in the sight of God. And it came to pass that after Semihaza began to corrupt the vision of any who would listen, that Eve came upon this scene. For she had become frightened when Semihaza landed, and she had not come this way for some time. And as Eve walked some distance away from all of this, she heard the rocks talking about the stranger, and she felt a division between them. Some were drawn to Semihaza, and some were repulsed by his rebellions against God, and they loved God and would not displease him. And as Eve drew near, she felt like she must choose between them. Finally, after a time, she felt curious and went meekly and shyly up to a bush and peeked around it at the stranger. He was beautiful. She had never seen an iridescent rock like him before, and he was exotic to his surroundings, and he talked and acted like he was from far away where Eve had never been. And Eve listened no mountain had any rock like him. And Eve listened to Semihaza, told his stories of grandeur, and she felt drawn to him because he felt from far away, and he was beautiful. These two feelings had never entered the heart of Adam before, and his rib was created to be the feelings of his heart made flesh, and she was afraid, for she felt a part of herself become a stranger to her husband. And as it happened, Adam began to notice that all the rocks were not acting toward Eve as they had before. Some were quiet around her. And in his heart he began to sense a division among them and between himself and Eve. And this was a new and very alien feeling never before to confront him. And he was troubled. And it came to pass that Adam told Eve never to visit the rock stranger again. And he said, "I sense a division, and the thing surely will displease God." And the rocks among the Erkodecio, upon hearing Adam, who was made in the image of God, began to be greatly ashamed. And they were thus the first in the earth to cry out for a Redeemer. And they wept, and cried out for one who could deliver them from their shame. For it was one in their midst, even one of their own kind, that had first dishonored the love of God, and brought a division into the abode of God. And from that day the rocks of the Urkodeshi have ceased not to cry out continually before the face of the great Holy One, for one who will redeem them and erase their stain and pollution in the midst of the paradise of God. And Ebedel was the first to bring her voices unto the ears of God, requesting him to bring salvation. And they cried, God, come and save us, for our shame is too great for us to bear. Why, oh why, did it have to be one of our kind, who brought this great dishonor upon us in your sight? And God said, I will have a son, and by his hand I will send Michael, who is one anointed to save you, for there is coming a great war in heaven. And it came to pass that Semihaza began to be lifted up in his own eyes, and he took great delight in the pleasure of his own glory. And he prophesied and said, I shall be a many named one, yea, even the Son of God. And in the course of the earth he indeed came to have many names to describe his filthiness, for he is called Semihaza, Satan, Belial, Phosphor, Beelzebub, Prince of Darkness, and Melchirisa. And he began to fight against God, insomuch that he took it upon himself to reveal a vision of his own glory to any of the watchers who would listen. And he would proclaim with great and swelling acclamations that the visions of created purpose given by God to some watchers were unsatisfactory. And he would lie and invent for them a vision of self-glory. Now the Lord God, when he created all things, had seen that all things were good. And Semihaza had been created with a good and wonderful vision, and his vision of created purpose was for him, to see the glory of God as it fills the immensity of creation, and to be the herald of the premise and legitimacy of the word of his power. Because Messiah is indeed what his name has seen, but this watcher rejected this great vision, and he would not honor the word of his power, and he invented a lie to replace it. And he now claimed to be the herald of the power and legitimacy over the world of pleasure. And it came to pass that one by one he began to replace the visions of any who would listen to his lies. And thus he became known as the father of lies. Now the Lord God had asked Adam and Eve to dress the garden and to keep it, and Adam often spoke to all the Urkodeshi, and he besought them to remain faithful to God in all their doings. And it came to pass that one day Eve approached a part of the garden where she had not been, and she came upon a serpent that was many-colored and iridescent, and had an appearance much like Semihaza. And she had been obedient to the will of God, and had obeyed Adam, and did not visit the rock stranger anymore. But a subtle change had occurred in her heart, and she found she could be attracted for the first time to something for how it looked, and because it felt like it was from far away. And since she had peeked at Semihaza, she had this change in her heart, and it stayed with her. Now the serpent, whose name was Nashas, which means to diligently observe to see that the will of God is done, was a good and holy watcher among the Urkodeshi. And it was gentle and harmless, and it had legs, but even Eve saw and loved Nashas. These two subtle pollutants were in her heart, for Nashas was like unto Semihaza in his appearance, and Eve in her heart innocently felt drawn in her love for Nachash, to love him because he was beautiful to look upon, and because he was to her exotic. And she was unaccustomed to seeing one after his manner, and because Eve associated Nachash in her heart with Semihaza, Semihaza was able to speak to her by the mouth of the serpent with subtleties. And it came to pass that Semihaza said to Eve by the mouth of the serpent, Eve. Know you not that God is better than you? And Eve replied, I know God is good, and he is holy. And Semihazah said, there is a tree in the midst of the garden called cedar, which is given its life by the feelings of God, that feel the vision of your greatness. And this tree sees all the delightful things in our vision of created purpose. And Eve said, I know I am the rib of my husband. And Semihazah said, God is better than you, for he knows to distinguish between good and evil. If you partake of this tree, you will become like God. And you too can know how to distinguish between good and evil. Hold on real quick, family. And Eve said, God has forbidden that we should partake of this tree. And if we did so, we should surely die. And Semihazah said, God knows you will not die, but your eyes shall be opened, and you will become like unto God to know good and evil. For he wants you to not partake of it, so he can remain superior to you. And it came to pass that in her heart Eve could feel the spirit that gave life to the cedar tree. And she felt sad in her heart that she had fallen short in the eyes of God. And when she felt the tree, she exclaimed with delight, for it did feel all the good in her that the great Holy One had put there. Wherefore she went into the tree and filled herself with the knowledge of the goodness that was in her by the hand of God in her creation. And the feelings of the tree seemed to take away her sorrow that she had fallen short in the eyes of God. And it seemed delightful to her. And she went and brought Adam, and she said, my husband, this tree feels all the good the Lord God has put into you in the day he created you. And if we partake of it, we can feel like we are as good as God. And Adam said, I know God has forbidden us to partake of the feelings of this tree. And he was greatly saddened, for he felt a gulf arising between him and his rib. And his great loneliness began to come once again upon him. And in his heart he cried out for fear of the loneliness. And he went with her, and they both partook of the feelings of the tree. And she partook so she could be as good as God, and he partook for fear of loneliness. And it came to pass that when they had partaken of the tree, the eyes of them both were opened, and they beheld that they had been lied to, and had responded to the lie. And in doing so, they were not now like unto God, but were strangers to him. And when these things transpired, it was a very sober day in Eden for the object of creation, yea, even that which was made in the image of God, had acknowledged Semihazah to obey him. And in this way, the very image of God took upon themselves a portion of one who was rebellious toward God. And again, in this way, the power of Semihazah arose greatly, for now his soul was become the element of wickedness. And he was recognized by the image of God to be an alternative to God himself. And all the lying visions of those who followed after him were thus affirmed. But our first parents acted inadvertently. And the glory of Semihazah would be short-lived, as Adam and Eve did sin no more after their baptism of purification. And it came to pass that in the course of time there arose up one who empowered Semihazah to fully be the opponent of God, and to have power to wage war against his purposes. And that man was Cain. And while the sins of our first parents were inadvertent, the sins of Cain were the intervention of his agency to establish and call forth by the use of the element of wickedness that Semihazah would be the god of his religion in the occult, and Cain ruled over Semihazah. And they entered into a pact in sorcery that Cain would establish Semihazah if he could gain the desires of his heart over his brother Abel. And it came to pass that Azel, who is one of the Decadochi, and is inscribed 10th by his cunning, opened up to Cain the manner by which it could be accomplished, that he could kill his brother without drawing near to him, and thus the thing would not be known. And the guilt of Cain would not come forth, and the thing would be kept secret in the midst of the earth. And it came to pass that Cain prayed evil and hateful prayers, and he used the altar of his father. And he used Azel as the element of wickedness to call forth death unto Abel. And it came to pass that a stone of Azel smote Abel, insomuch that he died. And Cain had not come near unto Abel, and had done nothing but to pray his hateful prayers against him. And a falling star fell upon Abel, and smote him, that he died. And Cain knew he could say the thing that occurred, but not by his hand. But Shemihazah had deceived Cain, for he had not revealed unto Cain that the thing could not be hidden from God. And Cain was called to account before him. And thus it was established by the intervention of agency that Shemihazah and his religion would be enemies to all things good and the worship of God in heaven. And in the end, as Cain had killed with a rock, he was also killed by a rock, when the earth shook and his house fell upon him. And this event happened in the year that Adam died. And the shaking of the earth was caused by the Urkodoshi, in their mourning over the death of Adam. And it came to pass that the war increased and it grew. And there were many evil men who put their hand to the task of affirming the lying visions of Shemihazah and his band. And it grew until Shemihazah took with him 1/3 of the host of heaven, even to the number of 200 watchers, who rebelled to follow after him. And it came to pass that one arose who was a descendant of Cain, whose name was Lamech, which means to be instructed by darkness. And Lamech received instruction by the hands of the Dekadoshi, starting with Shemihazah himself. And Shemihazah desired to beget children, and he chose Lamech, for Lamech had 2 wives. And he followed after the manner of the religion of Cain, and he was the first to enter into the wickedness of having more than one wife. And Shemihazah instructed Lamech that by the use of the element of wickedness, and by using a meteorite, and by drinking menstrual blood, could conceive a child that was given by the power of the intervention of his agency, a lying vision according to the choosing of Shemihazah. And it came to pass that Lamech entered into a pact with Shemihazah, and he performed and practiced, and a child indeed was conceived that was evil by its nature, and had the vision of wickedness that was given him by Shemihazah. And the child was cruel and had no remorse or conscience. And his mother was ashamed, and she feared that a knowledge of his conception would come to the people. And the other wife was jealous, and she began to noise abroad how the thing was accomplished. And it came to pass that Lamech began to fear that his secret would become known, and all his neighbors would rise up against him. So he rose up and slew the child in its 14th year. And shame arose upon Lamech in abundance, for had he not murdered to get gain, but for the sake of his oath with Shemihazah, and the dominion of Shemihazah increased. For once the matter of the evil of Lamech was known, there were many who entered in to accomplish having children for the Dekadoshi. And it came to pass that these children of the Dekadoshi, who were called the Nephilim, spread violence and great pollutants across the face of the earth, and the war waxed great. And it was in its height at the time of the birth of Enoch, the 7th from Adam, and the land was filled with the visions of the glory of Shemihazah. And there was sorcery and witchcraft and every kind of evil, and every man sought to take advantage of his neighbor. Now the doings of Nephilim were after this manner in the days of the Nephilim, who were called giants. All the earth was filled with havoc, and one village of people would hate another, and they would choose from among themselves a most wicked and powerful sorcerer, and they would join to conceive a child by the use of the element of wickedness, who would have powers to destroy that which sustained or protected their neighbors. And in this way the evil vision of their Nephilim would be as a weapon against their fellows. Then their enemies would in turn make effort to conceive a child more powerful than they, and thus was every man against his neighbor, and the whole earth was filled with violence. If hunters were fighting against fishermen, the Nephilim which they begat would curse and kill and devour the fish with sorcery and witchcraft, insomuch that the fishermen would perish for want of fish to eat, and the hunters would gain power over them. And the children of the watchers began to sin against animals and birds and the fish of the sea. And it came to pass that in the space of only 10 generations the people of the earth became ripe in iniquity by the hand of the Decadochi. For as the Decadochi went forth in their wickedness, they did so without meeting any resistance. And they prospered and practiced at their will, because the kind heart of God in his purity made no allowance against evil. Nor did he bring to mind not but his great delight in his love for his creation, and in their vision of the grandeur of his love for them. You will see that great and holy men and their ribs took the side of God, and set their hand against the Decadochi and Semihaza. And Enoch walked with God, and was a mighty one, to lay the foundation of their obedience to the will of Messiah. And Noah besought God in behalf of all the families of the earth, and in this way brought forth the flood. And he enabled the great Holy One to subdue those fallen from their first estate, and bury them in the earth out of his sight. And thus, when they were bound and reeling from the blow of the flood, the great man Shem established the covenant with all the Urkadoshi, which is called Shabuat. And he in this way was built. And he in this way built into all the holy ones of heaven, who dwell among men upon the earth, a resistance to evil corruption. And thus we see that it was by the hand of the holy order of the priesthood that was after the manner of Melchizedek that the intervention of the just began to turn the war against the Decadoshi, and the brother of Jared was such one. Now after I beheld all these things before the Urim, I was astonished, and I walked with amazement for the space of 232 days before I approached to use the Urim and Thummim again. For I was very desirous to understand all things that the Lord brought to prepare my soul for this work. Alright, family, that's it for now. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all listened. I am a healthy, wise, strong, protected, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Shalom, family. Shalom.